So I'm going to talk about the streaks in online games and specifically the game of League of Legends. And in this talk, I will try to talk about why streaks affect player experience and how do players understand streaks and how do they deal with streaks. And first, let's start with a simple definition. So streak, we can just say, I just directly got it from Merriam-Webster, and it's a consecutive series of some sort of observable patterns. And streaks are just so prevalent in our everyday life, right? So when we watch the sports news, there are streaks of, in the NBA games, there are streaks of consecutive 30-point games. And there are also streaks of wins and losses in football games. And even as academics, we also can have all the sorts of streaks, like streaks of paper rejections and streaks of paper acceptance. So streaks are really the quite prevalent phenomenon that we deal with every day, that the system is very complex and we are dealing a lot of multiple factors, and sometimes we are not in control of what's going on, and we are facing kind of a consecutive series of some sort of patterns. And so there is actually a rich body of literature on streaks, about winning streaks and losing streaks, but mostly from the literature of sports and gambling. And there are actually quite a divergent view on what streak really is and whether it really exists, and how should people approach it. And on the one hand, there are people who are arguing that streaks are purely the result of system randomness, and whoever believes it are holding some sort of mistaken beliefs, like the hot hand fallacy or the gambler fallacy. The hot hand fallacy means that if you win more in the past, it's likely that you will keep winning. And then the gambler's fallacy is exactly the opposite. It means that if you do have some sort of patterns in the past, it's likely you will have less of this kind of particular patterns in the future. So there are actually a lot of statistical studies about how whether streaks are actually just coming from system randomness or not. But on the other hand, there are also empirical studies like this one studying the NBA players' behavior, and they found that when players just experience the hot hand streak, and they would likely to alter their behavior, and their chance to get a goal would be much higher. So right now, in the literature of sports and gambling, there are actually very divergent views on what causes streaks and whether it really influences players' behavior, and whether it's just players' false perception of what's going on. And but there isn't really much study on streaks in video game research currently. So today in this talk, we want to explore several research questions, which is what is considered a streak, and what causes a streak, and how do players react to streaks. And the specific context we select is League of Legends. League of Legends is one of the most popular games in the world currently. It has more than 100 million monthly active users. And it was developed by Riot Games at Santa Monica, California. And the most relevant part of this game's feature is that it has wins and losses, so inevitably players will experience streaks of wins or losses. And also League of Legends uses two very specific systems that will try to arrange players that will influence their experience with streaks. The first one is the ranking system. So they will use the ranking system to measure players' skills based on their performance and their wins and losses in the game. And the second system is the matchmaking system. It tries to arrange several strangers from a large pool of available players into into a team, and then use this team to compete against another team with similar skill. So these two systems work together to generate this very complicated situation where they want to use this team-based win and loss to determine players' individual skill, and then they try to put these players' individual skills together and try to arrange a team with a sort of fair match. Fair match means that each team has around 50% chance to win the game. And to understand how players feel about streaks in League of Legends, we conducted a social media study. We collected data from 2 forums. One is from Reddit, and the other is from League of Legends official games boards. And in total, we collected more than 700 threads from both forums, and we used the content analysis to go through all the data, and in the end, our final data set is roughly 4,600 player statements. So in this one statement can be either a player post or a player comment towards the post on the social media. And since we are using content analysis, and we used 4 coders in this coding process, and because there is no predefined sets of codes about what is streaks, so we have to develop our own codes. So we used open coding to generate individual codes, and went through several rounds of discussion to generate a code book about the 3 specific questions, and then we use the divide and conquer strategy to code the rest of the player statements. And in the next, I will present my findings, and but our findings is very structured. It contains like sort of percentages for different player reactions and responses to a specific research question. But that would be too much information for this talk, so in this talk, I will just pick the most interesting ones to present. And our high-level take-home message is that losing streak is bad, and winning streak can be bad too. And yeah, let's go on. So yeah, I think everyone can totally understand that losing streak is definitely bad, because I think almost everyone doesn't want to win, doesn't want to lose, and just want to win the game. So when they play the game, they spend 30 to 40 minutes to play the game. They just want to enjoy the game, have fun, but also win the game, especially in a very highly competitive gaming culture like League of Legends. And so like these players, if that player experienced a long losing streak, it could be painful, annoying, and not really motivating. And there are also some sort of other negative emotions associated with the losing streak, like if he could foresee the losing streak coming, it could give that player a massive anxiety. So player hate losing streaks, but player also hate winning streaks. At least some players hate winning streaks. Why? It's because when there are some kind of winning streaks, and players sometimes don't think they deserve the win, and then the win just pushes them to a very high rank, which means they're competed against another team which might be better, deserve that rank, which means that his or her teammates will be very angry at that player for not performing at that rank. So like in this code, the player would rather just go back to the rank that the player deserved rather than a much higher rank. So between this winning streak and losing streaks, actually what players perceived in the combination of ranking system, the matching system, the matchmaking system, is that it's a lot of times not in their hands to determine whether it's to win or lose. Rather, they found some perceived system intention that in the design of the system, there is this intention to generate these winning streaks and losing streaks, and as a result, their overall win rate can just be around 50%. And another player expressed a more strong sentiment towards this feeling of loss of control, like this player said, I'm just really tired of winning streaks after losing streaks after winning streaks. It's annoying and not fun. And in a winning streak, I win effortlessly. I lose every motivation to continue playing. So these sort of sentiments are very common in our data set, where the player feels that they don't deserve the win and they don't deserve the lose when they are right in the middle of the winning and losing streaks. And so, as we have talked through before, players hated losing streaks and winning streaks. So, like this player said, but when they try to reason why this happened, there are actually a wide range of reasons. Some of them think about their own individual performance and their emotion and other sorts of individual factors, but others are starting to thinking about whether the design has some sort of problem. So like in this example, the player attributed more of the streaks to their own emotions and reduced performance associated with the negative emotions. Like this player said, I know I'm playing angry, so I'm not playing as well as usual. But there are also other sorts of things that players think that actually this is not their own fault. So Riot is viciously against their own player experience, and Riot just wants to just want to put these individual players into this losing streak rabbit hole so they can never get out. So like this player said, I believe Riot has a vendetta against me and matches me up with just bad players for a week on purpose. So this is sort of perceived system intention, but also in a very paranoid style, like doubting that there is a secret group in the game company trying to do something harmful. Another conspiracy theory is that this quote that Riot even said that Riot wants you to stay around 50% win rate, and then he got fired. So this is this is also sort of rumors that people generate when widely studied in crisis informatics, where people face a lot of anxiety, people have a lot of uncertainty regarding what's really going on in these situations, and then start to have experiences with a lot of anxiety, and they start to develop their own plausible explanations of what's going on. And to deal with this, there are a lot of player strategies, and the most common one is to disengage from this game. Like they can disengage just from the ranked mode of League of Legends, or they can just stop playing League of Legends at all, or they can just stop playing video games. So there are a lot of ways to disengage from this environment that they consider toxic to them. And so this is more like on the rational side, where they just stop playing so they can take care of their emotional well-being. And there are also more on the, I would say, irrational or side, or that is not well justified. Like the first one is about how players can take advantage of their hot hand. So if they are experiencing a winning streak, they might be very happy and very high, and they just keep playing until the first loss occurs. And then the second example is more close to superstition, like connect your mouse into a different US port, drink an energy drink, works every time. Right, so this is kind of superstition. This is actually corresponds very well to the sports literature, where when basketball players experience a hot streak, they will never wash their hands. And they will never touch their teammates, things like that. So it's very, in this sense, the phenomenon is very similar to sports and even gambling literature's findings. And to conclude, our first argument is that both winning streaks and losing streaks are both undesirable, and they can both cause a sense of loss of control, because players feel that it's really the complex game system that determine their results. So they don't feel they really contribute much to their wins or losses. And another thing we found is that it's very important to pay attention to players' emotional and psychological well-being when playing games, especially in this very highly competitive gaming environment. So players can get really distressed, and especially considering that the player age in League of Legends could be young, but I don't have very solid data on this. But so anyway, so I think it's very important to support players' emotional control in some way, and but in our findings, it's mostly just players take care of themselves. And our last finding is about the knowledge gap between the players and the complex game system. So there is always two sides. On the one side, there is players know from their observations what's going on about the video games, and on the other hand, there is these very complex and delicate internal workings in these complex systems in the game. Like in League of Legends, there is this ranking system and matchmaking system, and the players do not necessarily know what's really going on behind the scene. So as a result, there are a lot of different ways they try to fill the gap, like interpretation, doubt, conspiracy theory crafting, folk strategies, and superstition, and among other things. So we have a more comprehensive set of player strategies and player attitudes in our paper. And the implications are at two levels. On the first level, we think that there is possibly unintended consequence and hidden bias in game systems. So like, even if game companies assert that they are trying their best to build a system that can generate a fair match, it's possible that what really happened to players can contain some sort of biases that players observe, and this negatively influence their player experience. And I think this is to some extent connected to the current discourse in bias in big data. Like there are a lot of unintended consequences in big data analytics and algorithms, and there is a wider both ethical and critical concern about how we design complex systems to actually take care of users. And the second implication is more on how designers and the players can communicate better to bridge the knowledge gap together, so that players don't spend much time exploring the possible explanations on their own. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions for the speaker? So please shortly introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. So one of the things I'm noticing that's a little bit different from athletes to e-athletes is the perceptions of positive streaks, hot streaks. Generally, athletes aren't worried about them ending. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you can speculate as far as what the difference are between esports athletes and regular athletes, aside from maybe age differences.
Well, that's a very good question, and yeah, I can only speculate since I don't do research on athletes. But yeah, I think the most interesting thing about the League of Legends is that it's a very complex system where it has this human factor where players just play, but on the other hand, there is this hidden algorithmic systems that determine their fate. It's not like like NBA games or football games that if you don't do well, people know. But in this situation, player can only use online forums to discuss and engage in a sort of collective sense making to figure out what's going on. So there are too many things unclear to players, and this will also generate a huge uncertainty compared to athletes. So that's my guess.
That makes a lot of sense. It'd be great to give some personality surveys to these kids and see how they do on like anxiety and sort of nervousness and etc. So
yeah,
that'd be a great follow-up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and actually there is a API to the League of Legends, so a lot of research already taken on this path to understand the individual and team performance. So I think this is a very interesting future direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jinwook Bok from Seoul National University. First, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
All I'm concerned is that if you collected data from community sites, I think the community sites sometimes can have a negative bias, basically on how people react, because people mostly post when they're angry rather than happy.
Yes.
They want to I had personal experiences like complaining of how Riot is fixing weird things like that. So would that actually affect the results of this? I think when winning, I felt really good. I'm biased, but.
Yeah, so I think this paper is more qualitatively and phenomenologically driven. So we are more interested in experiencing what are the experiences of players. So the point is to construct a more like fuller space of player experience rather than presenting the percentages of whether some players enjoy winning streak and some players enjoying losing streak. This can definitely be a future direction, but currently we are just trying to mapping out the landscape of player experience with streaks.
Thanks for the response.
Thank you.
One quick question.
Hi, André from the University of Lisbon. Thanks for the talk. So I just was wondering about, is this the case that you think it only happens in competitive games when you're playing against other players, where if you substitute the challenge with an AI challenge, with the behavior will still be the same against winning streaks? And on that note, if winning streaks are also related with and losing streaks with either the backlash from having the other team being better, or is it the case of my teammates being worse? So which one is the determining factor for considering it to be a negative thing?
Well, that would be a hard thing to say. Right now in this paper, we treat streaks as a whole. We didn't initially predefine whether there is a difference between winning streak and the losing streak, so we try to find the common theme. But I definitely see that players definitely enjoy winning streak more and losing streak less. That happens to everyone. So that would be a very interesting future approach to divide them, to see their